afternoon, G-Force Friday, Tom Ginn. Hey, today is a really special day, and I'm so excited and grateful to have a guest on. I'm going to introduce you here in a moment. But G-Force, G is for gratitude. I believe it's one of the most powerful words that we incorporate in our lives. It gives us a different perspective through gratitude, even when we have difficulties and challenges. Be grateful for all things. And that's the premise of our program, is understanding gratitude. And the guests we bring on are here to share their story and how they have used their story to influence and change other people's lives. So I'm really excited to introduce somebody I just recently met here the first part of the year through an organization I'm associated with here in Milwaukee called Excellent Business. And Paul was one of our guest speakers. And when I saw Paul speak, I knew I had to get to know this man. He brings a presence and a power and a energy, and I think you'll agree today that it's infectious, it's influential, thought-provoking, and so it's an honor to introduce him. And I've worked with Paul on a personal basis. He's worked with me in crafting my why story, and Paul's going to talk about his why today. He's a master of what he does. And I think today you're going to see that as we go through here. He's also worked with me on understanding what he teaches in his book. And here it is, The Secrets to Cold Calling. Powerful book, a new approach, a new direction for anybody in sales to understand that there's a new way to be more productive on the cold call. It goes beyond the skills there. It really helps you understand the psychology of relationship building in your calling. So, well, Paul, I'm bringing you on, my friend. Welcome, Paul Neuberger. Glad to have you, Paul.
Thank you, Tom. It's wonderful to be here. Any chance I have to spend some quality time with you, I'll jump all over that, brother.
Well, thank you. Well, today, Paul, it's all going to be your story. And, you know, we were talking a little back in the green room. I guess that's the best way we can call it, a green room. But, you know, what do you want to do? And I've heard your story. And just tell us a little bit about where you're from, your family, that type of thing. And then, you know, jump into your story and your why. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's fine. And again, I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, Tom, and those that are tuning in here today. Yeah, if somebody would have told me 10 years ago or so that I would be doing what I'm doing right now, I probably would have laughed so hard my sides would open. But it's just interesting when you're open to opportunities, when you trust God and you kind of give life to Him, where He ends up leading you. And my story is certainly one of those things. And you had mentioned this in the intro. I don't think it's going to take the viewers of this program very long to see that on my scale, you have introvert, you have extrovert, and then about a mile beyond extrovert, that's where I come in. I could be up here with you talking about Indian basket weaving for all I care. But as long as I'm having conversations, mixing it up with people, and just really kind of engaging, I'm a happy guy. And I graduated from, before I get to that, I went to Ripon College in Ripon, Wisconsin. I graduated in 2005, and it was my sophomore year on campus that it finally dawned on me, you know what, I probably should have an on-campus job or make money somehow. I mean, these books aren't going to pay for themselves. This tuition that I've got loans for is going to need to be repaid. Heck, the one date that I might go on over the course of 4 years, there might be a financial outlay needed there. So let me just kind of see what's available. How can I start making money? Well, it was my sophomore year, and I saw this thing advertised as the Ripon College Student Phone-a-thon. And basically what the institution was looking for was really gullible students who didn't know any better to pick up the phone and call alumni, parents, and friends to raise money for the scholarship fund. I'll tell you, Tom, all I really heard was blah, blah, blah. Hey, we'll pay you to talk. And when you love to bloviate as much as this guy does, that sounded outstanding. So I took the job, and one of the first nights that I showed up, I was amazed to learn just how quick the turnover rate was at the student phone-a-thon. Literally, truly, it was only about 72 hours. I think once these young men and women sat down and they realized what they were expected to do, yeah, no thanks. I'd rather get my teeth pulled than have to call these people and ask for money over the phone. So for me, again, it was love at first sight, love at first call, as I like to say. And not only did I last for 72 hours, I was pretty much running the program by the time I graduated as a senior. Loved it, loved everything about it. I mean, there's nothing that I didn't like about cold calling and fundraising. It was all just so romantic to me. The ability to talk to a total stranger, the ability to win somebody over, influence them, connect them at a deep emotive level, really just start to build rapport with somebody that 10 seconds ago you just didn't even know existed. Loved everything about it. And when I was getting ready to graduate, it was decision time for this knucklehead, because I had double majored in biology and chemistry, minored in physics. I used to be smart in a previous life. I don't know where in the heck I went wrong. And I thought being the team physician, being the orthopedic surgeon of the Green Bay Packers might be a pretty stellar gig. So as I was getting ready to go to medical school, somebody from the advancement office tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Hey, Paul, you know what? You're pretty good at this fundraising thing. You're pretty outstanding at this cold call thing. You're going to be in school for 61 years if you want to be an orthopedic surgeon. Why don't we give you a year of real world experience first? Then you can go off and do what you want to do." I said, "Fine, okay. I'd love to make $13,000 a year. So let's make this thing a reality." Well, as I mentioned, I'm a spiritual guy, and I just see God fingerprints in everything. There's no such thing as luck, chance, or coincidence. Everything is set aside by divine providence, good or bad. That's just the way that it works. And I just realized 3 months into my gig at Ripon College, this is exactly what God wants me to be. This is exactly where I need to be. And I never went back. I never went back to medical school. I never went back to biology, anything like that. I went all in with respect to professional fundraising. And Tom, you know this better than just about anybody. When you're really passionate about something, you tend to be halfway decent at it. So I got a number of promotions over 8 years, 6 to be in fact. So you fast forward 8 years, I'm now 30 years old. I'm the vice president of Marion University in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And in addition to being a spiritual guy, obviously an insanely good-looking guy on top of that, the other thing that really makes me me as well is that I'm an ambitious guy, driven guy. That's why I like hanging out with Tom Ginn. He's driven, he's ambitious, iron sharpens iron. And I thought, boy, if I can be the vice president of Marion University by 30, I bet you I can be the college president by 35. That became my goal. That became my life's ambition. And for a guy that's really hard on himself, where that bar is always really high, I normally never reach the pinnacle. I never reach the bar that I set for myself. But at this point, I was ahead of my goal to be college president. I was further ahead than I thought I would be. Life was going better than I had anticipated when, as these things typically do happen, it was November 2nd of 2012. It was his 60th birthday of all days. My father-in-law, Steve, got up early that morning like he usually did, sat down on the couch, bent down to put his socks on, and he just he never came back up. He suffered a fatal heart attack that morning, and that was the last that we had of my father-in-law. And when something like that happens unexpectedly, even if it happens expectedly, I mean, it doesn't really make it any easier. But I started in my head. I started just going through my last moments with my father-in-law. And it was a fish fry roughly a week or so ago before he passed, and just a very weak handshake. I see you later, Dad. I called him Dad. I loved him like a dad. See you later, Dad. And that was the last that I spoke to him. And that stuff just starts going in your head. Why didn't I say I loved you? Why didn't I give him a bear hug? Why didn't I say some of the things that I had inside that should have come out? And that was really tough following his passing. But in addition to the emotional trauma there was also an element of financial trauma. Basically, my father-in-law passed without life insurance. He passed without a decent amount of liquid savings. Basically, my mother-in-law's financial life was more difficult than it had to be, and I blame myself for that. I wasn't a financial advisor, but I knew the importance of life insurance. I wasn't a financial advisor, but I knew the importance of saving and protecting yourself against the what-ifs in life. And gosh, after 2 weeks of just kicking my butt, 2 weeks of blaming myself, I said, to hell with it. I'm going to be the change that I want to see in the world. I left the college presidency track. I left the college fundraiser, high school, or university hat that I had on, and I said, I want to make sure that this never happens to anybody else again on my watch. So I became a certified financial advisor with Thrive Financial. But to wrap this story up, Tom, the one thing that I noticed, I've always cold called when my salary was guaranteed. I've never had to cold call up until I became an advisor with Thrive, when it was 100% commission, when my very life depended on it. I was confident I could do it. I wouldn't have accepted the role otherwise. But now I've always been good. But how do I become great? And Thrive said, "Don't worry, we got you covered. Here's your script." I took one look at that. I said, "This isn't a script. This is toilet paper. My goodness, I'm going to go bankrupt if I've got a cold call using this. Nobody's going to meet with me." As I said earlier, I'm a tenacious guy. If there's a wall in the way, I'm going to break down that second wall. That's just the kind of guy that I am. So it took some time, but after a couple of months and thinking about, well, better talk tracks, better scripts, better value add propositions, better ways of prospecting an ideal client identification, it got to the point where I'd make 15 cold calls, I'd schedule 15 appointments. I became a bona fide script attack then. I mean, people looked at me stricter than the bearded lady when they saw what I was able to do. And again, ever the entrepreneur, always looking for opportunities, people started saying, "Neuberger, can I pay you to write a script? Can I pay you to train my team? Can I pay you to share your wisdom with us?" And sensing a business opportunity, I created the Cold Call Coach in April of 2015. I went full-time to meet demand in October of 2015. And to wrap this up, I could just say now I'm just extremely blessed to say that I've got clients in all 50 states. My curriculum is in 127 countries around the globe. I now own 4 businesses. I'm a best-selling author. And I get to hang out with Tom Ginn, cherry on top of that ice cream. So it's been a wild ride, but boy, what a blessing it's been.
Hey, Paul, I just want to let you know, one of my colleagues in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, has your book. And he loves it, So I introduced it to him, and it's making a difference. And he sells training. So I'm sure I think he's shaking up his organization a little bit of a different perspective on getting different results quicker with less effort. I think is in a powerful story. So thanks, Mark, for sharing that. Well, Paul, you made a comment, in the beginning that people on the phone only lasted 72 hours. What is it that causes people to bail so quickly? I mean, what's the one thing that you see that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really a number of things, but to answer your question specifically, it's because cold calling the way that it's always done is so insanely unnatural. I mean, you just think about what they're asking you to do. Hey, salesperson who probably hasn't had a lot of training. As an organization, we haven't given you the kind of development that you need, and we're just kind of hoping that you're going to figure it out. Yeah, you. What I want you to do is I want you to go through this long list. These are all the organizations we'd love to do business with. What I want you to do is over the course of several days, call every single one of them. Make them happy. Get to know them. Learn their pain points, establish a deep connection, and then sell. Have a good day. Bye-bye. That is so unnatural. That is not the way that life works. Couple things. What we believe in my organization, and this comes through in our training, first of all, people buy people first. People don't buy companies first. People do buy companies at some point, but I'm not going to work with Tom Ginn until I know Tom Ginn, like Tom Ginn, trust Tom Ginn, and get a good feeling around Tom Ginn. So if Tom Ginn cold calls me and says, "Hey, Tom Ginn here, I'm the financial professional that's going to save your dreams and make all of your wildest expectations. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy financial services first. I buy a person first. And the cold calling, the way that it's always been done, is so unnatural because your companies are saying, sell this product, sell this service, sell the company. That's not how human beings buy. Human beings buy people first. That's the first problem. The second thing is, and I'd love your thoughts on this, Mr. Ginn, because you are a very astute observer of human nature. People are not logical buyers. People are emotional buyers. The only time that people really use logic in the equation is to justify an emotional purchase. Just think about the last, and I'm not saying anything about you, Tom. When I say you, it's general you. But just think about the last diet that you were on. And it's that Saturday right now, and you've got that meat lovers pizza from Domino's, that hot steaming pie right there in front of you. You know you're not supposed to eat it. You've been eating Brussels sprouts and carrots all week. What are the thoughts going through your head? Emotionally, this is going to taste good going down. Emotionally, I want to get me some of that. But logically, I start to justify it. Well, I've been good all week. It's okay. Well, I haven't had a pizza in a month. Today's going to be cheat day. What they're asking you to do when you cold call the old way is sell on logic. I can save you money. That's logic. I can increase your coverage. That's logic. I can protect your downside risk. That's logic. People don't always remember what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel when you said it. So what we do in my organization is we teach on emotion, how to connect at a deeper emotive level quickly. And the last thing that I'll say, in terms of why people hate cold calling, because every single cold call script sounds exactly the same. Within 3 seconds, I don't care what organization you're for, I don't care what you do, I don't care what service you provide or product you sell. Within 3 seconds, I can tell you right off the bat, this is going to be a sales call, because they all sound the same. That's not common in the world. People are unique. People are different. People are once for all time. So these different, unique people deserve different, unique scripts. And that's what we do in my company. We highlight what makes them them. We highlight their God-given intangibles. We find a way, how do we separate you from all the competition out there by focusing on those things that make you different? How do you lead with it? How do you identify it? How do you message that? So the reason that people hate cold calling is because it's the most unnatural thing in the world. Because what they know about the world is over here, but what they're being asked to do is over here. So you got to stop cold calling the stupid way. Stop cold calling the way that gives you anxiety, phobia, call reluctance. It's not you, it's the system. And I think we've totally solved cold calling once and for all because we blew up the entire system.
Well, when I took your course, read your book, and then you've worked with me, and 40 years in sales, and you're right on. It's uncomfortable because every script that I've ever created or have one delivered for me to use, they're all the same. And it's, I'm the type of person, I'm going to work through it, but I can see that, the reluctance is outside the comfort level of who we are. And the way you position it makes it a more natural conversation. And it creates that curiosity versus, it creates an engagement and curiosity of why you're calling. So great job on that, Paul. What I like to do at this point is I got a couple things, in your website and what I've been promoting this week, just make it, you talk about making the impossible possible. What's the framework that you come from to get people to recognize that they're capable of doing more in their life? What's your underlying principle that you use?
Well, you better clear your schedule, Tom, Ginn, because you're tapping into one of the biggest passions that I have. That's what I get out of bed for. And I would ask your audience a very simple question. What do you get out of bed for? Because this life is going to beat the crap out of you. This life is going to tell you that you're no good, that you're worthless, you'll never amount to anything, that this life will try to make your identity something based on the standing that this life values. You're not handsome enough, you're not thin enough, you're not making enough money, you don't have enough likes on social media. And for me, the thing that really gets me going on those tough days, the things that really get me charged up on those days when maybe I have that doubt in my head, or I'm just wondering, am I good enough, whatever, is I get out of bed to do exactly what you said, to make the impossible possible. Because it's only impossible until somebody does it for the first time. And for me, I love to share with people how they've got so much inside them, so much greatness inside them. They're capable of so many things, and these individuals are barely scratching the surface. So many people don't realize the greatness that's in them and all the stuff that they can do. Life is so incredibly fast. It's like a blip on the map and it's done. Tom, I'm sure you can hardly believe how fast your life is going. I can't believe how fast my life is zipped by, and it's only getting faster and accelerating more every single day. So what's our legacy going to be? Are we going to live a safe, comfortable life where we never take any risks, where we're sitting on the sidelines and letting everybody else do the hard work? Or like the parable of the talents in the Bible, are we going to sit here and say, you know what? God has richly blessed me with a unique set of skills, a unique set of talents. I'm a once-for-all-time person. I'm no better than anybody. I'm no better than my brother in Christ, Tom again. I'm no better than anybody watching this. I'm no better. I'm just different. God has given me intangibles. He has given me gifts. He has given me skill sets. What am I going to do with those? Am I going to use those to touch lives and enrich others? Am I going to use those am I going to use this so when people see me in action, I'm not just going to be promoting who I am, but whose I am? Or am I going to take those gifts and sit on the couch and binge watch Netflix? Now, I'm not here to judge and cast dispersions on anybody. Sometimes we just need a whole day to watch Netflix and really get our mind mentally around things. But I just believe that God has given me a motor that doesn't stop. He has given me a passion. Man, there is a fire in my belly. I get a sunburn everywhere I go, Tom, again, because I'm so on fire for so many different things. And I want to use those gifts and use that fire to help other people become the best possible version of themselves. A couple quick examples. People will tell you, and believe me, when I started the cold call coach in April of 2015, people thought that was the stupidest idea in the world. Hey, Paul, cold calling is dead. Didn't you get the memo? Hey, Paul, cold calling was done in the Truman administration. That stuff don't work no more. You better find another career gig. But all I knew is that I was good at it. It felt right, and there had to be a better way. So when people tell me it's impossible to be a good cold caller, oh yeah, watch this. When people tell me it's impossible to bring Christ, your faith, into a secular business platform like LinkedIn. Oh yeah? Watch this. That's how C-Suite for Christ was born 2 years ago. We are now 800 Christian business executives all across the world. My posts on the C-Suite for Christ LinkedIn page average 10,000 impressions each, and we're posting every single day. People will say, Paul, it's impossible to differentiate myself from all my competition instantaneously. Oh yeah? Watch this. Instantaneous differentiation, how to make yourself memorable, is my number one most popular keynote. That's the one where you and I met there, Tom. I'm traveling the world, at least I was pre-COVID, giving that talk all over the place. Again, it's only impossible until somebody does it for the first time. And I get out of bed every morning to show people that what they once thought was impossible is indeed within their grasp.
You know, Paul, what I hear from you is you have an understanding of your gift, and you express it with your passion and all that. We all have it. We all have a gift that we can take to the world. And what would you recommend for people to, who are some of the people that influenced you to help you believe stronger in yourself? And I know the number one answer, but I'll let you express that. But, the importance of having people, and I know the value because I've experienced in my own life and some of the challenges and until I got this, I'll let you say it, coaching and mentoring. How important is that in your life? What type of mentors and coaching have you had besides the number one?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And for me, a lot of it just kind of started in the formative years of my life. And one of the most influential people on my life was my father, Mike. And I've been blessed to have the two greatest parents anybody should ever have. And my mom, I love her more than life itself. She's always been there for me. But my dad in particular really demonstrated and modeled this behavior for me. And I'll just give you a quick story around that, and hopefully this will provide you with that answer that you were looking for. But my family was not rich, to say the least. Now, we were never poor, but I would say we were middle class to maybe even slightly on the lower middle class side. Now, the good news is my brother and I had no idea. We had no idea. We never wanted for anything. We always took a vacation or two. Christmas was always nice at the Neuberger house. And I know my parent now that I'm an adult myself, a parent myself, a businessman myself. I see what my parents did now. But my brother and I had no idea the sacrifices that my parents made. But one of the things that was always important to my father, still is his faith. And that's kind of where I get that from. And my father was a product of Mesmer Catholic schools. He went to Mesmer High School, graduated, I believe it was 1972, the year he graduated. I could have that slightly wrong, but I think that's correct. Anyway, a Catholic education was always important to my father. Problem was, a Catholic education, that ain't cheap. And being of the socioeconomic status that my family was, again, not poverty, I'm not saying that, but it would have been very difficult to afford that Catholic private school tuition. Well, I remember, so I'm a product of Cudahy. We were born in Milwaukee. I moved to Cudahy right when I was about 8 years old, 9 years old. I was in 7th grade at the time. I was attending Cudahy Middle School, and the plan was that we were going to go to Cudahy High School. It's a fine enough school. Again, my friends were going there. The one or two girls that I was kind of chasing, that I had no shot of actually dating, but the one or two girls that I was chasing, they were going there. It was just assumed in the Neuberger household that's where you were going. And about halfway through my 7th grade year, there was a fight at Cudahy High School, and a student actually threw a teacher out of a window. It was, I won't even go into all the details. Thankfully, it was the first floor, so nobody got extremely hurt. But a student fighting with a teacher, what the heck? That just never even entered our mind. That was the last straw for my father. So he went to my mom and he said, all right, it's time that we go in a different direction for the kids. So he picked St. Thomas More High School, which was pretty close to our house in Milwaukee, because we couldn't afford it. And this is where my worldview started to change. I just thought in life as a kid, you're dealt, you play the cards that you're dealt. That's the way it is. And then I didn't think anything much else other than that. But my father started to show me, no, that's not the case. We can't afford this tuition based on where we are now. I got to make a little bit more money. So what did my dad do? My dad just made the decision and said, I'm going to take a second job. Now, this was my father, probably at this time in his early 40s, maybe even mid 40s. He took a second job, and it wasn't just any second job, Tom. My father, for over a decade, served as a paper boy. Now, for me, you have to understand this, and I mean no judgment at all, okay? Please understand where this is coming from. My father is Superman. My father doesn't deliver papers. I'm sorry. That's beneath my father, or so I thought at the time. My father is not going to be working with 13, 14, 15-year-olds. My dad's up here. If anything else, my dad should be, chief of staff to the President of the United States. That's the way that I looked at it. And I just, with my dad, on Friday nights, we'd go to the distribution center to bag the papers. On Saturday, he would do the assembly and make sure everything's ready to go. And then on Sunday morning, he'd go out and deliver them. And I remember one time, because my family's a close-knit family, I had a conversation with my dad. He said, why are you doing this? I'm not seeing him now. Weekends were the times we hung out. Now I'm not seeing him as much. Why are you doing this? I'll be successful no matter where I go. I don't need to go to a school like this. That's not necessary for my development. I will be fine wherever I go. Why would you do this? I miss seeing you. I miss hanging with you. And I'll never forget, my dad just looked me in the eyes very tenderly, almost kind of like, oh, Paul, you're so naive, kind of a thing. And he just said, Paul, one day you're going to thank me for this. And I've been thanking Tom every day for the rest of my life since. Because my father knew at that time something that I didn't know. It's a Catholic education is going to make you part of your formative development, and now I'm the leader of C-Suite for Christ. God is number one in my life. I was, believe it or not, I was a little shy around seventh grade, hard to believe. In a private Catholic school, I was able to emerge out of my shell. I came into my own. I was able to take leadership positions. Now I run 4 companies. I'm an international keynote speaker. Without that decision, I'm not the man I am today. But what my father taught me is, if life isn't going according to your plan, change something. If there's an obstacle that's put in your way, knock that freaking obstacle down. And what's nice is my dad never complained. He got up and he did it because he was working for a cause greater than himself. He was modeling the behavior that he wanted his son to emulate. If I'm half the man my father is, and I pass that on to my kids, I'm going to be considered a very successful person in my book. So in terms of how I've gotten here, in terms of how that has formed me, in terms of how, my mindset is the way that it is, that's certainly that. And I love to surround myself with people that are of the same mindset. They love tackling challenges. They see opportunity everywhere. Iron sharpens iron. It started with my father, and it continues based on the company that I keep today.
Yeah, Paul, I like hearing that because many times we don't recognize what our parents did until sometimes looking back. You recognized it sooner than probably most. And, having that example without judgment. I mean, you as a young person, you should be he probably really wanted to be president, in your mind. But, it goes back to people that is, when we have a vision and goal, we need to do what we need to do and get the job done and not worry about what other people think. He that's an admirable story. And that work ethic and that commitment to his family and making sure that you prepared for life in a different way.
Yeah, if I may, you're exactly right. And what that reminds me of is just, we talk about influences. I mean, you are who you are. You are this amazing, wonderful person, successful professional based on the events that have happened in your life, the people that have come into them, the experiences that you have. I like to think that I'm a product of that too. I mean, it's impossible not to be. And as I look back, one of the stories that I heard, you remember Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball, the former player for the New York Yankees? Does that name ring a bell?
Well, the name, but I probably don't know the story, so we'll let you do that one.
No problem. Well, Don Mattingly, he was I don't know if he still is the manager of the LA Dodgers. I know he was at one point. When you have kids, you stop obsessing about sports as much as I used to, but they called him Donnie Baseball. He was one of the better position players in baseball at his peak. He played for the New York Yankees. And I forget who tells the story, but it's spring training. Don Mattingly is at the peak of his prowess. He's one of the best players in the league. And it's this rookie, one of these newcomers in spring training. And he just can't help but notice that every time the players get off the field, there's Don Mattingly just zipping it right into the dugout. He's hustling, he's grinding, he's doing all the things that he needs to do. It's the first day of spring training, and this guy's acting like he's got an axe to grind. And again, they're going off the field after the drills, and there's Don just hustling his butt right off the field. And this guy eventually caught up to him and said, Don, where's the fire, man? What's going on? It's the first day of spring training. Pace yourself. What's the hurry? And Don Mattingly looked at him and he said, kid, you got to hustle and give your best all the time because you never know who's watching. And that's been one of those mantras that I've really tried to internalize. I mean, this could be just me and you today, Tom, talking. I don't think it is, but this could just be me and you talking. But you never know who's going to see this. You never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. As a father, I never know when my kids are watching me. Maybe here they are in the living room, but maybe they're off in the other room listening to my phone conversation. You got to live every day as if you're trying to not so much impress somebody, but somebody's watching, somebody's looking, somebody's learning. What kind of impression are you going to leave? Are you going to show that hustle, that grind, that work ethic? Are you going to say something negative about somebody that you're going to regret later? Are you going to just put on a persona in public and when the lights go off, be somebody that's totally different? When Don Mattingly is busting his buns on the first day of spring training, of all the people that need to do it, it's probably him, because he's so obsessed about making sure that he's leaving a good impression and being a good influence on others. I think we can all learn something from that. And whether I'm in public or whether I'm just sending an email. I want to live every moment of my life to the fullest because you never know who's watching.
Yeah. And, your children, it's one thing to don't do what I say, but they actually do what they see, right? They're watching your actions. So that's a powerful measure in itself. Mark Gassert just put up another quote here, a pretty long one. Thanks, Mark. I'm just going to put that up and let Paul read it. If you wanted to make a comment on that, please do. Can you see that, Paul?
I can see it, yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And Mark, great minds think alike, sir. That's really kind of the essence of the cold call methodology that we teach. I mean, in a nutshell, I do a lot of things like this with my brother Tom Ginn. It's one of those. I like being the center of attention, not so much for my sake, but because again, you never know who's watching, and I'm comfortable in medium like this. I have a television program on YGTV, Young Guns Television. I'm on radio. I'm the host of a podcast. Pretty much, I'm on a platform like this 2 to 3 times a day, every day. And because of that, I get asked a lot of questions like a guy like Mr. Ginn might do. And one of the questions I get asked a lot is this: Paul, what's the ultimate secret to cold call success? I hate that question because it can't just be boiled down into one answer, into one response. There's so many things that go into it, but what my new friend Mark just put on the screen there would probably be that. If what's been done in the past is when people cold call, they're usually cold calling to sell something. And I understand why they would want to do that. But again, people buy people first. You're not going to get me to buy from you sight unseen in 10 seconds when you appeal to my logical brain. And rather than selling yourself as a human being first, you're selling the company first. For all the reasons that we just talked about, that's never going to work. So the difference between everybody else cold calls to sell something. My clients cold call to give something. And you wouldn't think that would be that big of a radical shift, but it really truly is. And that's why I think this is a much better way. A guy like Tom is very generous already. Tom opens up his referrals. Tom is good giving connections. Tom is very generous with his insight and expertise. He's always educating people. That's why his clients love him so much. But all of a sudden he picks up the phone, hey, let me tell you on my services. It's a complete 180. So all I'm asking people to do on the phone is be the same exact loving, generous, wonderful person you are and cold call to give something first rather than sell something. So the only question is that we have to answer, what can you give where the other person benefits first? Can you give an idea? Can you give a best practice? Can you give access? Can you give referrals? Can you give exposure? I mean, the list truly goes on and on. And to just prove how well this works, the national cold call success rate in this country is 5.5%, give or take. And I got to tell you, in what other profession, in what other line of work is 5.5% success acceptable? Could you imagine if your physician only accurately diagnosed your health condition 5.5% of the time? Could you imagine if your car mechanic only fixed your car correctly 5.5% of the time? Not only would they be fired, they would likely be in jail for malpractice or fraud. Why is that acceptable with respect to cold calling? After 6 years of building my portfolio, 6 years of working with some of the preeminent organizations across the globe, my clients have an average cold call success rate of 36.4%. That is not a rounding error. 5.5% to 36.4%, and a lot of that are those mind shifts that we talked about. Let's talk about voicemail. The national voicemail response rate is a paltry 0.7%. My goodness, you got to leave about 110 voicemails just to get one return, and even then, usually it's a mistake. Oh, sorry, this isn't Domino's? Sorry about that. So in that case, the 0.7% voicemail response rate, my clients are at 23.1%. 23.1%. There is a better way. We're revolutionizing the way the cold calling is done. And if you're sick of the way it's always been done, this is a better way. And it all starts with making sure that you give something first rather than selling something first.
Absolutely. That's the understanding the giver's gain, that principle. And it's powerful. one of the things you're doing to, besides your business and your C Suite for Christ uh, platform, Young Guns. I attended one of your first and last live event, and I hope that's coming back. Share a little bit about that platform, some of the people that have helped put that together. What's the mission of Young Guns and your Young Guns TV?
Yeah. So Young Guns was one of those things that I think, like a number of entrepreneurs, is it wasn't so much that I had a hold on an idea, but rather this idea had a hold on me. And I couldn't shake it. I mean, again, up to this point, when I wanted to move forward with Young Guns, I already owned 3 businesses. I got 3 small kids. I mean, gosh, my hairline was here 2 years ago. Slowly started to recede based on all the stress from time to time. But I needed something else to do. Like, I needed a punch in the face. But gosh, this idea just would not let me go. And my idea was, I think Young Guns, it just came to me, where I just wanted to celebrate thought leadership. I wanted to celebrate these innovative solutions to complex problems. Now, young doesn't necessarily mean biological age. Young just means a fresh approach, a new idea, somebody who's got an original solution to a complicated problem. You could be a 97-year-old young gun, in my opinion. And I just wanted to put on this event where we celebrated some of these really innovative disruptors. So I'm in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, and Milwaukee really is an entrepreneurial hub. I mean, my jam is LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn just about all day, every day, in some way, shape, or form. And there's so much talent in Milwaukee. I see them all over LinkedIn, and I'm saying we got to give these people a stage. We got to give them a platform. We got to tell the world some of the great things that they're doing. But I knew I could not do that myself. So I reached out to the finer entrepreneurs that I know, David Bellman, who owns Bellman Homes, a home builder, and Andy Wines. He's the president of a company called Green Up Solutions. He's an Army veteran. You'll recognize Andy if you see him. He never leaves the house without his camo pants. So he's definitely a cult of personality. And I just said, guys, here's my idea. What do you think? Well, I think you can kind of judge the validity of a good idea based on how quickly people share your vision. They jumped in right away. And we spent roughly 7 or 8 months planning the event that took place in February 2020 with Thomas. Speaking of, me, David, and Andy were 3 of the keynotes. We brought in 2 other keynote speakers. Guest panel had over 300 people there. It was one of the things that I'm most proud of professionally. We just have to tell you, we did it up very, very well. And we exceeded everybody's expectations. Well, right around the time Young Guns was ready to be brought to the mainstream in February, we just had a lot of laughs. What's next? This is great. I love what you're doing. How are you going to take this? Well, we're not. It's a one-time event. We're going to go back to our jobs and to our families, etc. But there was so much interest in this. So many people got swept up in what we were doing. We pivoted from Young Guns events. That's actually still the URL of our website, younggunsevent.com. We're now Young Guns Movement, because we've tapped into the thing here. We're starting a tsunami of entrepreneurship, a tsunami of best ideas, good ideas and best practices. So as Tom said, first to last, because right after the event in February, our goal, our mission, was to do what we call the circuit event. Kind of like an American Idol kind of thing, where we're now going to get off the stage so we can give the stage to others. So we were going to do once a quarter a circuit event all across the state of Wisconsin, where entrepreneurs, where young thought leaders who wanted the stage, who wanted the ability to share their ideas and best practices, they could jump on the stage. We'd have a competition, and the winners of these circuit events would be the speakers on the main stage every February. And then COVID hit. No events. The world ground to a halt. So we were thinking, well, how the heck are we going to pivot this now? So we started to think, well, what's recession-proof? What can we do even if the world is on lockdown? And that's where television, of course. So we created a proprietary business channel called YGTV, Young Guns Television. It's totally free to the business community. Each of the Young Guns has their own show on the business channel. And we've been doing that since late June. We've had a tremendous response with respect to viewers, subscribers, The backing of corporations, our corporate partners and sponsors has exceeded all of our expectations. And our next virtual event is going to be taking place on November 12th, followed by a main event, also virtual, in February. So it's been quite the ride. It's been amazing to see us tap into this vein. And now we're setting our sights bigger. So what we want to do is we want to take on TED Talks. We want to surpass TED Talks. We think TED Talks is good. We think it's valuable. But we don't want to be all things to all things. My goodness, I was on the TED website. I mean, they got TED Talks about algae at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Some woman is talking about relations with her husband. And I mean, it just seems like they're all things to all people. We want to focus laser in on these best practices, these things that people are doing, how they're changing the world one at a time. And we think we got the momentum to take us to that level.
Well, Paul, what I like to do is what you want to do there. It's already manifest. It's happening. There's no doubt with the passion, and I know some of the people that you have in there. It's going to happen, and the type of people you're drawing in. How do people find out about that? What would be? Is there a website, or is there a place they can go to find out about? Tap into your Young Gun TV. What? Because I'm going to put it up here on the scroll here. So what would that be?
Yeah. Sure. So I would say a couple of things. So one, you see the information for me down there. There's a couple of things. First, if you go to my website, there's a button on the top that says Paul's Passions. If you click on Paul's Passions, all the businesses that I'm associated with are listed there. So that's one good way to access Young Guns. Again, our website URL is younggunsevent.com. And then there is on the bar at the top, there is a place where you can click to learn about our summit event, which are these quarterly events that we're going to be doing on an ongoing regular basis. They're going to be virtual, at least for November and February. Hopefully we'll be able to bring these things back out to the public domain here sometime soon. But then there's also information about YGTV, Young Guns Television, that's also on the Young Guns event website. Let me just talk about that briefly. What's really nice about this is we've got 4 really cool programs on this. So I host a program called YG One-on-One, where I sit down in a one-on-one interview style format with business luminaries, C-suite executives. I had Christine Speck, the CEO of Cousin Subs, on the program, Kevin Steiner of Mutual Insurance. I just was in the studio the other day interviewing John Greenberg, the president of the Milwaukee Admirals. Just totally fascinating stuff. They tell us about their why, they tell us about their story, some of the challenges, all good practitioner advice. So that's one of the programs. Andy's program is called YG Stage. So his is more of a keynote speaker program where somebody will come in, they'll have the stage for 20 to 30 minutes. And it's, again, as if you were at a conference, an energizing, engaging keynote speech. And he's had some incredible thought leaders on his program. Very, very good people that get you to fit deep. David Bellman's program is called YG Workshop. Kind of like a Shark Tank, only without a competition element. Somebody who's stuck in their business, somebody who is plateaued, somebody who is, hey, I was off to a good start, what do I do? David's on a panel with 3 very successful entrepreneurs, and they're giving insight and advice, really entertaining stuff. And then Pat Miller, who's the 4th Young Gun, he's the one that David and Andy and I brought on. He's our chief strategist. He has a program called YG Roundtable, which is kind of like what I'm doing here with Mr. Ken, where we just get deep and philosophical. So maybe today, social media. How has social media changed? Pat Miller is joined by 3 social media experts to get granular for 35 minutes. It's diverse programming for diverse audiences, and boy, it's been a blessing to be a part of that.
Well, Paul, I just wanted people to know about that because, I know it's not just going to be just a local event. And this reach goes beyond that here through my program. So, givers gain. So I want to make sure we give this good information out so somebody can gain from this. I know a number of those people, and I tell you what, as it's powerful to get to know yourself and the people that are, I think, forward thinkers. Well,
and it's kind of with that, Tom, and again, I could extend the same courtesy to you. Again, it just goes back to what we're saying, because you never know who's watching. And what we want to do is, again, you never know who's watching, make the impossible possible. So for us, hey, Let's inspire people through our efforts. Let's motivate people through our efforts. Let's show them, hey, if you want, there's not a stage circulating right now for us to stand on and talk about this. So if there's no stage right now, let's build the stage. Let's not just build the stage. When it's done, let's give the stage to others so that they can share their ideas, their thought leadership. And it's just nothing more than that ripple effect. My idea that I had for months was just that first pebble in the pond. That ripple started to go. Then we got David and Andy. Then we got an event. And we had hundreds of people. Now we got YGTV, and it just keeps growing. And for me, the thing that I love most about it is we are inspiring other people. We are inspiring other people to share their ideas. We are inspiring other people to go outside of their comfort zones. And we are inspiring other people to change the world, because it just takes a spark to ignite a blazing inferno.
Absolutely, absolutely. Paul, I could spend hours with you and just feeding off your energy. Most people say I'm pretty intense and pretty up and positive and full of energy to a point. Sometimes it's like, oh, well, back off a little bit. But you're the type of guy I love being around. So you feed me, and you've influenced me. You have made more than you would know. How you've helped build my confidence, especially sharing my why, a story that you helped me craft about what I hid behind it and held me back in my fullest potential. So today I give you personally a lot of credit to encourage me to do that video. That was I tell you what, and it brings tears to my eyes, because if anybody knows my story, it was my own story, my own blocks, my own belief system that held me back to my fullest potential. And it's running across people like yourself. My message is people like yourself are willing to give. And don't be afraid to reach out and ask. And guess what? I used to have that fear, like a cold call, to ask. So today, I give a lot of credit to where I am today over the last several months of what I've been doing in my business, directly related to the influence that you had from the time I saw you at EIB meeting, our conversations on the phone, my decision to be coached by you with creating my why, and then working with you on some of the principles here, in this book. I give a lot of credit to that, and I'm grateful to know you, not only as a coach and a mentor and a business person, but a brother in Christ, and I consider you as a friend, even though we've only known each other just a short period of time. I think if I can call you, you would call just like a brother would call. Say, hey, listen, got 5 minutes. I need your ear, and I honestly believe that that's the type of relationship we want to cultivate in this world. I did a talk the other day. I'm going to take the spotlight off you here a little bit and put it on me, but it's really evaluate who's in your life. And the people in your life, if they're holding you down, you got to find people to lift you up. And I know there's one that you should do. I believe it's the number one personal development book there is the Bible. And then seek out people that are willing to help you, that give you inspiration, to guide you and mentor you, and so I look up to you, and I've had many coaches and mentors in my life, and I put you right at the top there, Paul, with the influence. So,
yeah, I don't even know how I would follow that. All I would say is right here, man. I mean, much love to you as well too. And again, it's one of those things that I just believe that nothing happens by chance, luck, or coincidence. And you've enriched my life just as much. And it's all one of my favorite things to do is that why development program that we talked about. And it's been a blessing to work with several individuals. And I was inspired by your why as well, because if anybody could have quit, if anybody could have given up, if anybody would have been justified in stopping the brakes and just accepting mediocrity, just accepting, hey, this is just who I am. I'm never going to be any better. Might as well make the best of it. It's Tom Glenn. That didn't happen. And that's what you're looking for in a financial advisor. That's what you're looking for in a coach. So as much as I appreciate what you're giving to me, you're manifesting that story and being a blessing to others. I want to work with a guy that didn't give up. I want to work with a guy that faced adversity and challenge. I want to work with a guy that was mentally blocking himself in, realized that, took the very difficult step to acknowledge it, and then bust through. And I think as much as the credit you're giving me, you deserve more credit for even putting yourself in the position to bust through those barriers in the first place. And it's now that I've gotten to know you, I can certainly see it takes a strong person to do that, a man of faith or a woman of faith to do that, somebody that's willing to take risks. And you check all those boxes, my man.
Right. Well, thank you, Paul. I know you're a busy guy, and we're approaching that. But I'd like to close out with this. Of all things we talk about, your stories are deeper than what they're broader and deeper than you shared today. I'd love to have you back on as a guest in the future. Okay. In parting today, what would be one message that you would want to leave with the audience? One thing that they could take away today with that could move them in the direction of their passion, or finding their gift. What would that be? What would be the one thing you might say? Maybe two. We'll let you go with that.
You always know the way of my heart, Tom, kid. That's for sure. All right, well, let me say that. I'll end on one because this might take a minute or two. I know we're getting close to time. There's a lot of things that go through my head, and it's rare that I'm speechless as much as I like to talk. So I was really kind of thinking about that. This is what I would say. This would be my one thing. I think a lot of times in life, people let their standing determine their identity. And I think that is the root of a lot of the issues that we face in society. Because what do we already say about this world? And correct me if you think I'm wrong, but this world is a nasty place from time to time. It is a place that's going to chew you up, spit you out. It's got its own definition of success, which really, truly contradicts what the Bible's definition of success is, what other people's definition of success is. So when you let your standing determine your identity, this is what I mean by that. So let's say you're in sales, let's say you're an entrepreneur, let's say you're a business owner. We'll use sales, for example. For 3 weeks, I'm crushing it. For 3 weeks, my cold call success rate is really high. For 3 weeks, I'm writing a lot of business. For 3 weeks, I'm getting a lot of appointments. Well, my standing in that case is rather high. Well, if I let my standing determine my identity, if my standing is high, my identity is high. Wow, I'm great. Yeah, my life has value. Boy, howdy, I was built to be a salesman. For 3 weeks, I'm up. Well, like sales, like life, like anything, it's very cyclical. So for the next 6 weeks, I'm in the Sahara Desert. I can't book an appointment on cold calling to save my life. The RFP pipeline is totally dry. Those 3 people that said they were going to move forward, just like Casper, they've ghosted me. I have no idea where they are. So now for 6 weeks, my standing is low. If my standing determines my identity, now for 6 weeks, my identity is low. You know what? Maybe I misjudged this. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I'm not cut out to be in the world of sales. In the next 2 weeks, you're up. Basically, what happens is when your standing determines your identity, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. Who wants to be on that roller coaster ride? That's why antidepressant use is so high in this country. That's why there's so many divorces. That's why there's so much suicide. That's why there's so much nasty stuff that goes on in that headspace, because we're just reacting and basically identifying ourselves based on our standing at that moment. And because your standing is always fluctuating, so does your identity. Who am I? What do I stand for? What am I all about? So one of the things that I'm going to challenge people, and this is my parting advice, is rather than letting your standing determine your identity, why not let your identity determine your standing? So the question becomes, who are you? What are you about? What do you hold dear? What are these basic, undeniable principles that you have as a person? Speaking only for myself, my identity is I'm a beloved son of Christ. I am a son of a king, the king, not just a king, the king. So at the end of the day, no matter what happens to me, whether I close business, whether I don't close business, whether I have a successful marriage, whether my marriage ends in divorce, whether I have all three children for the rest of my life, or gosh forbid, God takes one of my children home before I'm ready to say goodbye, none of that changes my identity, because my identity determines my standing. And because God is my firm foundation, my identity will never change. Regardless of what happens with respect to my standing, I am always who I am. So my challenge to the people listening to this is, rather than letting the world tell you who you tell yourself who you are, have a good sense of identity. That way, no matter what happens around you, no matter what's going on in your life, you're always going to be anchored to that identity, and that's the kind of life we want for ourselves.
Wow. That is powerful. So thank you, Paul, with that. I'm just going to have you hang on here for a minute. We're going to wrap this up. And again, with all my heart and gratitude, thank you for being here. And I know what you shared today is going to maybe put a little fire in somebody, get people to start thinking a little bit differently, and seek Paul out. That's one of the things. Want to make sure that if you have questions, you want to know more about what Paul's doing, Young Guns, or his personal coaching, his crafting your why, your sales training, I just encourage you to reach out and have a conversation with Paul, and he could definitely make a difference in what you're doing. So, Paul, I'm just going to put you on the backstage here for a minute, and we're going to wrap it up. And again, thank you for being here, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, Paul Neuberger, I was excited, nervous, all those things. And, Paul is a very significant influencer in this business just because of his character, his energy, and who he is. And he does make a difference in people's lives in many ways. With that, thank you for being here. Gratitude, one of the most powerful words that you can incorporate your life. When things are going good, be grateful. When things are going bad, be grateful, because it gives you a new perspective and new energy, hope to a new outcome. Use gratitude in all things. We're out. Have a great day. God bless. Have a great weekend.